The first thing I noticed wasn't the broken fence. It was the silence. The kind of silence that doesn't belong on a ranch that used to be full of laughter, barking dogs, and the echo of a man's voice calling across open land. It pressed against my ears as I stepped out of my truck, heavy and unfamiliar, like something had gone missing, and not just a few strands of barbed wire. I hadn't been back here in years, not since my best friend Jake left town without a word, and took a part of my life with him. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet ways life brings people back together, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs a reminder today, and don't forget to subscribe. Stories like this matter more than we realize. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have, staring at the sagging wooden posts and rusted wire stretching unevenly across the dry land. The fence leaned like it had given up holding things together. Maybe just like everything else around here. Then I saw her, Jake's mom. She stepped out from the porch slowly, wiping her hands on a worn cloth, her blonde hair tied loosely, strands falling around her face like she hadn't cared to fix them properly. She looked older, of course, but it wasn't just time. It was something deeper, something heavier. Grief changes people in ways no mirror can show. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I remembered that smile. It used to be brighter. I walked toward her, unsure of what to say, unsure of why my chest felt tight like I was walking into something I wasn't ready for. She didn't hug me right away, just looked at me like she was trying to recognize the boy I used to be inside the man standing in front of her. Then she said it, simple and soft, like no time had passed. "Finish the fence and I'll make lunch." That was it. No mention of Jake, no mention of the years, just a fence and lunch. But something in her voice told me it wasn't that simple. I nodded, grabbing my tools from the truck. The metal clinked in my hands as I walked back toward the broken posts. The sun was already climbing higher, casting long shadows across the dry grass, and the air smelled like dust and memory. Fixing a fence isn't complicated. You measure, tighten, hammer, and pull. But that day, every movement felt heavier, like each wire I stretched was tied to something inside me I hadn't touched in years. Jake and I built this fence together once. We were barely 18, laughing more than working, arguing about who was stronger, who could pull the wire tighter. His dad had stood nearby, shaking his head with that quiet pride fathers have when they watch their sons become something more. His dad is gone now, I knew that much. Heart attack, 2 years ago. Jake didn't even come back for the funeral. That part still didn't sit right with me. I bent down, gripping the wire with pliers, pulling it tight against the post. My hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over, but my mind drifted. Why had she called me? Out of everyone after everything, why me? The sound of boots crunching against gravel pulled me out of my thoughts. She walked closer, stopping just behind me, her shadow stretching over the ground beside mine. She didn't say anything at first, just watched. There was something in that silence, something unspoken, something waiting. I kept working. After a while, she turned and walked back toward the house. I could feel her absence immediately, like the air shifted when she left. Time passed slowly under the sun. Sweat ran down my back, soaking into my shirt, dust clinging to my skin. The fence slowly began to take shape again, straightening, tightening, becoming something solid, something reliable, something that held. Around noon, she came back. This time, she carried a glass of water. She handed it to me without a word. Our fingers brushed slightly, and I noticed how rough her hands had become. Not soft like I remembered. Life had made her stronger, but also lonelier. I drank the water, feeling it cool my throat, and for a moment I almost said something. Almost asked about Jake. Almost asked why she called me after all this time. But I didn't, because I was afraid of the answer. She stood there for a moment longer, then spoke quietly, almost like she wasn't sure if she should. "You're the only one he ever trusted with this place." My grip tightened around the glass. I looked at her. Her eyes weren't on me, they were on the fence. "He used to say if anything ever happened, you'd come back." The words hit harder than I expected. I looked away, back at the wire, pulling it tighter than necessary. Jake didn't leave because of nothing. We had a fight, a bad one. The kind that leaves words hanging in the air that can't be taken back. He had plans to leave town, to chase something bigger. I didn't understand it. I thought he was abandoning everything. His family, this land, everything we built. I said things I shouldn't have. He did too. And then he left. Just like that. No goodbye, no looking back. And I never went after him. That's the part that haunted me. I could have. But I didn't. Why now? I finally asked, my voice quieter than I intended. She hesitated, then she looked at me, and this time, I saw it clearly. Not just grief, hope, because he called. My heart skipped. I turned fully toward her. When? Last week. The world felt like it slowed down for a moment. He asked about the fence, she continued, her voice trembling slightly, said it used to bother him when it wasn't straight. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Jake remembered. After all these years, he said, if it ever needed fixing, you'd know how to do it right. I looked back at the fence, my vision blurring slightly, though I refused to let it show. That stubborn idiot, he hadn't forgotten. Neither had I. We stood there in silence again, but this time it felt different. Not empty, just unfinished. Like the fence, like everything between us. She turned and walked back to the house again, leaving me with my thoughts and the steady rhythm of work. By the time I drove in the last staple and stepped back, the fence stood straight and strong again. It stretched across the land like a line drawn with purpose, like something worth holding onto. I wiped my hands on my jeans, staring at it for a long moment. Then I walked toward the house. The smell of food hit me before I even reached the porch. Real food. The kind that takes time, the kind that feels like home. I stepped inside, and for a second, it was like nothing had changed. The same wooden table, the same curtains, the same feeling, but quieter. She was at the stove, finishing up. She glanced back at me and smiled again. Little warmer this time. Sit, she said. I did. We ate in silence at first, not awkward, just careful. Like two people navigating something fragile. Halfway through the meal, she reached into a drawer and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table toward me. My chest tightened before I even opened it. I just knew. Inside was a number and a short message. Call me if you ever fix that fence. Jay, my hands trembled slightly as I stared at it. All these years, all this distance, and somehow we ended up right back here. If this story is touching your heart even a little, take a second to like, comment, and share it. You never know who needs to hear something like this today. And before we reach the end, I want to ask you something special. Comment below, have you ever lost someone important because of pride or silence? Because sometimes the hardest fences to fix aren't made of wood and wire. I sat there for a long time after lunch, the paper still in my hand. She didn't rush me, didn't say anything. She just watched me with that same quiet understanding. Finally, I stood up. I should go, I said. She nodded, walking me to the door. Before I stepped out, she placed a hand on my arm. He never stopped caring, she said softly. I swallowed hard. Neither did I admitted. And for the first time in years, saying it out loud felt like something inside me shifted, like something broken had a chance to be fixed. I walked back to my truck, the sun beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting everything in a golden light. I sat there for a moment, staring at the number in my hand. My thumb hovered over my phone. It would be easy not to call, to drive away, to leave things as they were, but I'd done that once before. And I knew where that road led, so I took a breath and dialed. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, a voice, familiar, unchanged. Hello? For a second, I couldn't speak. All those years, all those words left unsaid, and now they were right there waiting. It's me, I finally said. Silence. Then a sharp inhale on the other end. About time, he replied. And just like that, the fence between us wasn't gone, but it wasn't broken anymore either, and sometimes that's where healing begins.